Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
So we are talking about purpose today.
And how it relates to brain health.
And how it relates to brain health. And, you know, we just finished a course on about our book. So we wrote a book called Find Your Core, which in part is about finding your purpose. And we just finished a course for our new group that's coming live here in a few weeks, I guess. And people, it's funny, people think purpose has to be some giant grandiose thing like, you know, I don't know, I'm going to change the world by Friday or whatever. And that's not what purpose is at all. Purpose is a sense of meaning in your life. Things have meaning. And it turns out that that's incredibly important for brain health.
For all aspects of health.
Well, for all aspects of health, yes.
Yeah.
Purpose, having a clear sense of purpose, lowers all-cause mortality.
Wow.
Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, you name it, reduces the risk of it. Alzheimer's. But specifically for the brain, it does a number of things. And if you look in the description, I put 10 of them in there just for fun. But one of them is reduce your risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. So having a clear sense of purpose reduces stress hormones in your brain, reduces stress, period, reduces stress hormones in your brain, which cause accelerated aging of your brain. So that's one thing it does. And it just makes life more engaging.
And I think that's the point of it, right?
Yep.
The studies have shown that is one of the key aspects of why purpose is so important, because you do become more engaged in life. You do go out and interact with people in a different way when you bring a different light with you. And I know a lot of, this last month, and a lot of times we do concentrate on nutrition, movement, detox, all important parts, of course. But this emotional, spiritual component is vital and often overlooked. So today we really wanted to dive in on what is purpose. And it's not really even about finding your purpose. It's more about uncovering it, because I think your purpose is beneath you all the time. Sometimes you're in autopilot, though, and you kind of forget why you're doing what you're doing. And basically, it's just rediscovering your why, rediscovering why you do the things you do, and that just brings life to a different light.
Simon Sinek wrote a book entitled Find Your Why.
Yeah, love
and
Simon.
It's the same kind of an idea. Yeah, find your why, find your purpose, same idea. And your why and your purpose isn't your job. It's not a job description. It's not, a task you do. It's underneath all of that. For both of us, a component of our why or our purpose is service, right? We're healers. We do things for others. That's a piece of our purpose. There's bigger.
And community.
In community.
Trying to connect people, bring people together.
Yeah, and that's the reason for this group we're creating. We're trying to create a true online community with real interaction, not just trolls being mean to each other.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes those comments can be, I'm sad to say, a little bit entertaining, but still not the right type of entertainment.
Right, yeah. So the average person scrolls on social media something like 3 hours a day.
Isn't that amazing? Or just scroll, yeah.
And I'm guilty. I did it yesterday.
I am too. I actually have a limit. I have a 30-minute social media limit set on my phone. Yeah. And it does allow me to ignore it. But if I'm in the middle of something that I find is actually, constructive or helping me with something, I can hit ignore, so it's not like it locks down your phone and you can't get on there again. But it does make you aware, okay, I've used my 30 minutes up today. Is this worth my time, or is there something else I can be doing? Like maybe I can spend some time outdoors. Maybe I can connect with my almost 12-year-old that doesn't want to talk to me anymore because he's getting to be that age. There's so many other things that we can do. So it's just about balancing out our time and being aware of all the time that we spend on those things.
Right. So neurochemically, I know all of you love my neurochemistry stuff, but when you're soaking your brain in alarm chemicals, cortisol and epinephrine and norepinephrine and, all of them, you're actually suppressing something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor is like growth hormone for your brain. And it's what improves neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is your ability to adapt to your environment. God, I got a frog in my throat all of a sudden.
Yeah, and purpose improves neuroplasticity.
And purpose improves neuroplasticity, and it reduces stress, so it does both. So this idea of purpose, one really kind of fun little exercise. Think about 5 people. They can be historical figures, they can be fictional figures, they can be current day figures, but people...
They could be your best friend.
It could be your best friend, but for this exercise, it's better if they're famous.
I used one of my best friends, too. And I'll explain how I did it. You keep explaining how I did it.
So you just find 5 people who really, their way of being in the world resonates with you. It's like, on my best day, that's who I am. Not on my best day, that's who I wish I was. On my best day, that's who I am. Golly, sorry. And put them into chat. And then ask, you put these 5 people in and you simply say, what are whatever you want to know about them, what are the commonalities between these people? What are their strengths? What seems to be their purpose in life? Write a little paragraph about whatever you want to know about the commonality between all of these people. And it will spit out a few paragraphs.
Chat to connect the dots.
Yeah, ask chat to connect the dots. And not that you can't connect the dots yourself. You can.
Yeah, you don't have to use chat.
Yeah, but it's an interesting exercise, a little bit third party to kind of help you get underneath your own noise in your head about what your purpose might be. So I put in some pretty diverse people and yet got a pretty firm output that resonated with what I already thought was true. And but for those who, it's not an end; it's a starting point to just think about what's my purpose.
Kind of fun.
And it's kind of fun
because it might actually. So I found this. A friend sent me a video on this, and I wish I could remember the woman who did this study on people. But she found there was even college students who were like, well, I'm this major, but all these people point me off to being way over here with this major. So it's really, in some instances, it can be eye-opening to maybe some things in your life that you're not in alignment with. And like I said, I used one of my best friends. But I simply just pointed out all the things that I adore about her and really look up to her for what she's done, the hard things she's done in life and the good things and where she's at right now. And that was also a key piece in finding my own kind of archetype.
Yeah, that's the other thing you can ask about archetype if you know what that is. So this idea of purpose and brain health is underappreciated, but all cause mortality. Think about that. Study after study after study is now showing us that a sense of meaning, purpose, place, meaning, but meaning place in society, not like your hierarchy, but just not fitting in, belonging. So Brene Brown talks about the difference between fitting in and belonging. Fitting in is when you want to be a part of a group. Belonging is when the group wants you to be a part of them. So belonging is, belonging, purpose, meaning, those things, study after study it's really emerging that this is more important. It's more important than your cholesterol, it's more important than your blood pressure, because it lowers your cholesterol, it lowers your blood pressure.
It's a cascade. You have to start. If you're starting down here, you're not going to get to everything, but if you start up here.
Right, start upstream.
Yeah. And it makes things a lot easier.
But we have a society designed to isolate us. We all have to have our own car. We all have to have our own little cubicle at work. We all have to have our own headset on. We have to have our own screen in front of us. We have to have our own phone. We have to have our own music. We have to have, back in Earlier times, we sat around a campfire. Now we sit around the glow of a screen, right? And a campfire telling stories about the day's hunt or the mishap at the river or the funny story about this person or that person, that was uniting. And now we live in a society that primarily separates us. We get into our own echo chambers. You know, I heard a ridiculous story. Sometimes you hear stories that are so ridiculous you just go, there's no you know, people are telling you as if it's true, and it's so ridiculous you just think that can't be true. And you look into it a little bit and it's like, no, that's a completely false, that's a false narrative that has nothing to do with reality, but it reinforces somebody's belief system, and so they believe it, you know, because it's a meme on TikTok or who knows where. So we really have to resist this isolation. You go to a place like, you know, not that I'm saying it's the best country in the world, but Bhutan, they don't have a gross national product. They have a gross happiness quotient. Their goal, the stated goal of the government, I'm not sure they're doing it exactly right, but their stated goal of the government is to improve happiness and joy in the... There went a blue heron, is that what that was? Great blue heron just flew behind us. Their stated goal is to increase the joy and happiness of the population. That would be kind of a nice governmental goal, don't you think? So anyway, the idea here is purpose isn't some grandiosity. Purpose is what happens in your life every day. It is the common sacred. It's the everyday sacred.
Yeah, it's sometimes quieted, and you can bring it into, you know, everything you do. So I think sometimes we're going back to brain health here. You know, if you look at the age and the decline of brain health, and if you look at the incidence, a lot of times it is when perhaps they can no longer carry a job, and that might be related to the decline in their brain health. But I know even instances where my dad has Alzheimer's, and I saw a steep decline with him when he lost his job. And, you know, he was used to going out every day, working, providing for the family, and all of a sudden he couldn't do that anymore. And it was completely devastating for him, and really created a spiral that you really had to, you know, intervene and try to bring out sense of purpose and find different purpose, because your purpose is always there. It's underneath, and you can bring it. You can bring your passion, bring your purpose to the things you do in your everyday life, but you really have to be able to see that. That's why I think this Find Your Core was so, like, eye-opening for me. Just writing it was kind of like eye-opening to see those things and really bring awareness to them.
You know, who's the Dirty Jobs guy?
Mike Rowe?
Mike Rowe. Yeah, Mike Rowe has a great talk that he gives about passion.
It's on YouTube as well.
And it's on YouTube, and he talks about how you know, we're doing a disservice to our kids by telling them to follow their passion, because they think passion means I need to be you know, this particular thing. I need to be a rock star, or I need to be a doctor, I need to be a lawyer, I need to be this, I need to be that. That's not your passion. And he says instead, bring your passion. Whatever you do, bring your passion with you. Bring your purpose, bring your passion, bring your mission with you, no matter what you're doing. And it brings a bigger sense of wow to your life. Yeah. Carol, good morning.
Carol, good morning. And Sherry, yes. I love everything neuro.
I love everything neuro. Oh, good.
Thanks for...
Yeah, of all the things I've lost, it's my mind I miss the most.
Oh, that might be true.
Yeah. I think that's Groucho. Somebody else probably said it, but Groucho Marx was famous for saying it. So this idea of neuroplasticity, so that's another thing that purpose increases, is neuroplasticity.
It does.
And that means that your brain can remold, it can heal, it can change, it can adapt. And that's something, when I was in medical school, we were told that the brain doesn't heal.
Good morning, Joanne.
Good morning. The brain doesn't heal, and if you have a stroke or you have something bad happen, that's just too bad. It's the way it is. But it turns out that's absolutely not true. We were also told that there really isn't immune system endings in the, autonomic system endings in the brain. That's not true. We were told that there weren't lymphatics in the brain, and that's not true. It was actually, they're actually called glymphatics or glyphatics, and your brain is actually more and more like a sponge. It actually shrinks at night as it dehydrates itself, and then the spinal fluid circulates and cleans, and then it reabsorbs it. Your brain is actually shrinking and absorbing spinal fluid, like one of those space creatures on Star Trek, where its head is or a boov.
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob or the boov on what's the name of that TV show? Home. Home. Yeah. So the brain is far more complex than we think. There's more connections in your brain than there are stars in the known universe. Just think about that for a second when you look up in the sky some night.
That's pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing. There's a lot going on up there. And in fact, there was
a lot we still don't know.
most we don't know, actually. Because, there's studies, the brain uses about 25% of the energy that we take in any given day. And so people said, well, gee, is thinking really that metabolically active? No, it's just running all the time. So when they had people work on really difficult chess matches. They would have them play a computer that was just a little better than them, so they were really struggling in these matches. And they burned like 1 M&M's worth more energy than they did when they were just doodling, So the brain is doing a lot of stuff in the background. Things like consciousness, things like just making sure that you're still breathing and your heart's still beating and your guts are still motilating and your immune system is still communicating right. All these things are happening in the background that we don't even have no conscious conception of. And then we can feel the breeze, which is beautiful right now.
Here. I want to have clinic outside today.
Yeah, that is a really great idea.
It's one of those days. It's like, wow, right now.
Yeah. All right. So our 15 minutes of fame are over.
I want to say, so you guys, thinking of brain health this month, I gave up coffee. I switched over to mushroom coffee, so there's technically a little bit of coffee in it, but it's amazing. I love it. I never thought I could quit drinking coffee in the morning, but mushrooms are the new coffee, I guess. It's amazing what it does for my brain, like the chaga, the lion's mane. Yeah, I'm really excited about it, but sometimes my brain is doing too much. I agree, Carol. And then when my brain's doing too much, I don't get anything done because it's like bing, 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 bing.
Yeah, settling the mind.
Over.
Purpose helps with that. Do the exercise of finding purpose really, really helps with that, because suddenly it becomes easier to sort stuff out. I'm a yes guy. I like, everything's interesting. Yeah, of course I want to do that. But with a sense of purpose and so on, like, it's easier to say no. I get opportunities all the time, and the question is my mission to be, a spokesman and a famous author and, all that stuff, or is my mission to be patient-centric? And I've chosen patient-centric, right? And I want to work with people. I want to be an end provider, not some theoretical person. But I get offers all the time to be on this podcast or go over here or do that thing, and I always say no because I'm focused on something else. But it's easy to get pulled away from your mission if your mission isn't clear. Not that you're being pulled away from yours. I'm just talking in general, Carol. I wasn't really talking to you, just to be clear.
Or you weren't, it's just, everyone has something different that they want to contribute, or they feel the pull to contribute.
Yeah.
And I guess as Liz, it's unearthing and allowing that pull to be present in finding your purpose.
Yeah.
or unearthing your purpose. So to
Yeah,
say.
somehow somebody was telling me, that they felt like a failure because they weren't famous, and it's like, well, that I think is a distortion of purpose. Purpose doesn't mean that
You are famous in someone's life.
In someone's
we are
life.
all famous in
fact-
someone's life. And think about the people you are famous for. I mean, think of how important they are to you. You wouldn't want to be famous for anyone else. If it's your kids, if it's your, partner, if it's your friends, if it's for your community.
In fact, going back to your dad for a moment, he lost his purpose. His purpose was to go out and
Work.
be the breadwinner. And we had a conversation, and I said, and he was talking about how he was basically useless. And I said, well, your grandchildren don't think that. And so, going back to the fame idea, he's famous to his grandchildren. And grandchildren love him because he's a goofy guy. He loves to joke around and whatever, and they love it. So, if you bring your purpose, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you're doing it. All right, so,
Purpose.
hey, you guys, thank you for coming out today and
Yeah.
hanging with us, and
It's a beautiful morning in Minnesota, wherever you are, though.
wherever you are.
Hope you get a little sunshine.
Yeah. Alrighty, bye-bye.
Today.